And we are meeting via GoToMeeting, though Mr. Ginsburg, I believe, is room 206 of Town Hall, but should be soloing there at the moment. Okay. The first matter on the agenda is a special permit application number 323 by Yanlan Tang for 682 Boston Post Road. I understand this is to be continued immediately to February 8, 2022. Need I say any more? Good. Okay. Then special permit application 276-C for 110 Post Road Partners LLC at 110 Boston Post Road, a proposal to establish a new 1,600 plus or minus square foot home contractor supplier showroom in the space previously occupied by Marianne Dental Associates. The subject property is located on the south side of Boston Post Road, approximately 250 feet west of its intersection with West Norwalk Road, and is shown on Assessor's map number 32 as lot number 4, 5, and 6 in the service business zone. Mr. Ginsburg, would you do the introduction?
Sure.
Sorry, I'm supposed to start that.
The subject property is in the service business zone, which is on the eastern end of town. The building is.
Second, Jeremy, let me ask you to please mute their microphones unless speaking.
Two-story building, and this is a special permit request by represented by attorney Bob Maslin for a home improvement showroom in the space now occupied by a dentist's office in the service business zone. The proposal is for only internal changes, no external changes to the building, Bob, and no external activity, if I recall. Attorney Robert F. Maslin is here on behalf of the applicant.
Okay. Fred, can you give me the screen here?
I'm like a spaz.
Again, would all those other than a speaker please mute your microphones?
Okay, you should have up on your, I don't know what happened here, but I may have a problem. But anyway, because for some reason my cover slide is not appearing. But basically, this is the deal. We're converting the dentist office into a showroom space for Glazier Experts LLC, which is a glass kind of specialty place business that is relocating from behind the post office and is being displaced because of the Corbin project. We're in the SB zone, as Jeremy said. The entire site's a little over 1 acre, commercial building, small, with off-street parking. There are already a couple of home improvement type businesses at the front of the building facing the Post Road, Post Road Home Center and Bella Pietra, which is a tile company. The space is 1,600 plus or minus square feet. And as Jeremy mentioned, this used to be a dental office. So let me see if I can, something is awry here, but oops, let me just, let's try this again. For some reason, my slides aren't cooperating. Let's try it this way. Oh, there we go. Okay. So the Glazier business is basically going to be a little showroom with an office and a break room and a restroom, and that's basically it. No change in the site plan, i.e. no increase in footprint, no change in parking, no change in the facade, and that's it. Descriptively in a nutshell, here's an aerial, which is similar to the aerial photo in the application. These are all solar panels up here. The space we're talking about is on the right end of the building over here. And I have a couple of photographs Anybody who goes by here on the Post Road would recognize this building. A couple of photographs of the front. And this third photograph is the space over on the left here. There's some demo and some site fit up work being done. What we're asking for here is a use approval by special permit, which is required of home improvement contractors and those types of businesses in the SB zone. Here's the space, existing typical dentist office. You walk in the door, there's a waiting area, then you have these rooms where you get your teeth pulled and cleaned and all that. And that's going to be converted to this, which is basically a showroom area with an office, a restroom, and an employee lounge. And that's it. This is consistent, obviously, with the two showrooms next door. And it'll actually make the building more conforming because dental offices are no longer permitted in the SB zone. So that's it. Any questions? I know you have a long agenda. I made this as short as I could.
Very, very nicely done. I'm not seeing any hands up or anything unmuted. If anyone has a question, please speak up. Among the commissioners, hearing none, let me turn to the public. Any questions or comments from the public? Seeing and hearing none. Well, then do we have a motion to close this application? Mr. Rand moves, Mr. Balgach seconds. Commissioners in favor, please raise your hand. That appears to me to be unanimous, but I got very small boxes on my screen here, but appears
So
to
the
be.
hearing was closed.
Yes. Right, is that what I move for? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, good.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Maslin. I don't see, is Mr. O'Leary there? No, okay. So the third item for our attention today is a special permit application number 322, land filling and regrading application number 520, Anthony Dechellis Revocable Trust, 320 Brookside Road. Proposal to construct a 60-foot by 100-foot recreational sport cart and associated stormwater management on the east side of the property and to perform related site development activities. The 2.32 plus or minus acre subject property is located at the northeast corner formed by the intersection of Brookside Road and Marianne Road and is shown on Assessor's map number 1 as lot 87 in the R2 zone. Mr. Ginsberg, would you introduce, please?
Yeah, so this is Fred Donite. As Mr. Riley has noted, it's a 60 by 100 sports court going to be constructed out of concrete materials, going to be used for soccer, basketball, volleyball, tennis, those sorts of uses on a residential property at 320 Brookside Road. There is no lighting or sound system associated with the proposal. And the applicant proposes some drainage and stormwater features for the site to accommodate or to mitigate stormwater runoff since the size of the proposed sports court is more than 1,000 square feet. We do have the engineer here this evening from Muller Engineering, Brian Muller. Brian, take it away.
Good evening. Thank you for the introduction. I'm not going to try to repeat everything that was said. That was a pretty good introduction. This property is 2+ acres. It's in the RA2 zone. It's on the corner of Brookside Drive and Marianne Road. I've spoken to some of the neighbors. We sent out mailings to them. Seems like, you know, we were taken pretty favorably. They just had a couple of questions. So it's pretty typical. You know, we're adding a sport court here, a lot of impervious surface. So we've added in 24 Coltech systems, 330 units on the south side of the sport court, away from the septic systems and all, accessory buildings that are already currently on the site. We are applying for a land filling and cutting permit, but there really isn't much soil or material coming in or out. It's pretty much an even swap, cutting into a slope a little bit, filling in the low side. The property has a mild slope on it in the rear yard from the east to west. So, that's basically it. So if there's any questions from any of the board members, I'd be happy to answer.
Commissioners? Commissioner Gately?
Ms. Gately, I think it would just be useful, just because you weren't presenting on the screen, and I understand, I know it's challenging, to do so. Some people like it, some people don't, but can you just, because they are adding impervious surfaces and given, the focus and concern on, flooding impact on neighboring sites and not wanting to create an adverse impact to neighbors or the town, given the flooding issues that we've had, can you just sort of, on any of the site plan that you submitted to us, just kind of go through like where you're doing the cutting and digging in and where the cul-de-sacs will be with respect to the grading already on the property and sort of, any neighboring properties, just that kind of stuff.
Oh, of course, yes.
Thank you.
So the sport court's going in the center of the rear yard. It's going to be in between the detached garage and a small barn in the back southeast corner. And in between those two structures, the detached garage and the small barn, both of them have no foundations. We're putting in a 24-unit Coltech system, which is an underground retention system. It's used for water quality treatment, as well as stormwater adverse impact, peak flow rates. As everyone witnessed this past year, we've had a good 3 flooding events, I'd say. Depending on where we were in Fairfield County, it was anywhere from a 25-year to potentially a 100-year storm event. I had actually come out to this property during one of those events and witnessed some pretty good flooding in the area. I spoke to one of the neighbors uphill. He had been concerned about water flow and making sure that we weren't going to be blocking anything. There is a pretty good delineated swale along the back of this subject property, which diverts the water around the property so it doesn't adversely impact the interior of this own property. And most of the stormwater passes through this property on site along Marianne Road and either discharges through a series of catch basins with 2-foot sumps, which also provide additional water quality treatment, before it ultimately discharges into the town drainage system in Brookside Road. The pipe sizes are large pipes. They're 12-inch PVC SDR pipes. Okay. I inspected all of them. They were all clean. The catch basins were clean. The yards, had some erosion, but overall it was more of a concern of, okay, let's just make sure this water passes through the property, doesn't impact any neighboring properties before it safely discharges into the town of Darien stormwater system.
Thank you.
So if there's any other, you want me to go into any more depth, I could probably talk about this for hours, just wouldn't be that entertaining.
And I think Monica McNally, she would probably talk to you for hours. She would love that. Is the fact that you inspected the width and the sort of whether pipes were blocked, is that in your drainage report? I read it.
I don't believe I have anything of the existing maintenance on the property. That was kind of a separate issue that the owners had asked me to look at. They just wanted to make sure, because they just bought the property, so.
No, I think it's important though that it's part of the record and that you did speak about it. So it is part of the record now, even if it's not in your report. So I really appreciate that added information. Thank you.
No problem. Appreciate it.
This is Fred Donut. I would just add that Darren Ostafine, the Assistant Director of Department of Public Works, did submit comments on the application dated January 20th, which are included as part of the file. Darren did not have any significant comments on the application. He essentially is okay with what's being proposed.
I just wanted to ask if there's any kind of walk path proposed or going to be created to go from the house to the sport court that might be impervious or otherwise of interest? No?
I don't believe so. There was no discussion of a walkway. Presumably, they would probably enter straight from the driveway courtyard area between the garage there. So I think they would just run across the lawn. Yeah, I can't, if anything, maybe some stepping stones or something, but nothing significant.
Okay. All right. Any other questions by commissioners? Okay, then let me open it up to the public. Any questions by the public? Comments? Concern? Seeing none, may I suggest a motion to close this application? Thank you, Ms. Gately. A second. Thank you, Mr. Balgach. Any further discussion? Then commissioners in favor of closing this application, please indicate by raising your hand. That appears unanimous. Thank you. Thank you very much for that good presentation. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All righty. Next matter for our attention is landfilling, excavation, and regrading application number 522, Nicholas and Tracy Young, 249 Tokeneke Road. Proposal to regrade the western portion of the property to create a level yard area and to perform related site development activities. The 1.13 plus or minus acres subject property is located on the south side of Tokeneke Road, approximately 300 feet west of its intersection with Pheasant Run, and is shown on Assessor's map number 66 as lot number 111 in the R1 zone. Who would like to make the introduction? Mr. Ginsburg, please.
Jeremy Ginsburg, Planning and Zoning Director. As you can see from the submitted plans, and if you've been out to the site, the property owner has a gently sloping property that slopes, I'll call it from the south to the north to Tokeneke Road. This is on the eastern end of town. There was a lot of ledge on the side of the house, on the west side of the house, in which the applicant was starting to remove the ledge, but because of the extent of the removal, landfilling and grading permit under section 850 of the regulations has been invoked because they're changing the grade more than 6 inches, more than 15 feet away from the house. So the plan prepared by SE Minor shows both the existing grades and the proposed grades. Under the new proposed condition, they're going to remove some existing rock and basically continue the existing slope of the land from south to north. So the water will still flow in the same direction. And that was important for SE Minor to put a proposal forth that doesn't impact the adjacent properties to the east or to the west, and the water flow is the same. The amount of impervious surface is probably about the same. I'll defer to the engineers on that because they're going to just replace what's there, the final graded property, with grass seed or sod. So there's no new impervious surface other than a very small terrace adjacent to the house. The prior condition had a lot of rock, so there was a little bit of runoff there. Darren Ostefine of Public Works sent a memo dated January 19th, 2022. And you have a copy of that both in the record and in your packets. I'll turn it over to Tracy Young, the property owner, and her representative from SE Minor.
Thanks, Ms. Young. Go to it.
Tracy?
Sounds good. I'm trying to unmute here. And I have Larry Liebman from SE Minor here too. So I don't know if Larry, you want to do the more official talking or if you'd like me to walk through.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Larry Liebman from SE Minor and Company in Greenwich. We prepared a grading plan, and thank you very much, Mr. Ginsburg, for a wonderful presentation. It is a gently sloping lot. The activities started to take place, and then we were asked to come in and prepare a plan. We have erosion controls on the plan, and it's a very, very simple application that is going to be regraded, and it's going to be regraded, and there is not going to be any impacts to the neighbors, nor is there going to be any additional runoff, since we're going to be grassing over the area that has been impacted. And I can answer any questions that anyone may like.
Commissioners, any questions?
No, I mean, I think you hit it. You hit our concerns. You understand why we're, yeah, so thank you. I think we all appreciate that. Good.
Great. The proposed deck addition, there is an existing deck to be removed, the proposed deck, but that is not relevant to the area we're talking about, right?
That is true.
Okay.
That's great.
Anything else, commissioners? Then let me open it to the public and ask for any comments or questions. Please unmute yourself. If you're not on camera, speak up. I am hearing nothing. Then I would entertain a motion to close this application. Mr. Rand, and seconded by Mr. Belgach. Oh, sorry, Ms. Gately, next time. Okay.
I like a bipartisan kind of like, we're cool.
Exactly my mission. In favor of the motion to close this application, please indicate. That appears to be unanimous. Thank you all. Thank you, Ms. Young and Mr. Liebman. Appreciate that.
Okay, the commission will be deliberating and deciding this at a future meeting in 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay. The next matter on the agenda is a land filling and regrading application number 521 by Mario Lombardi for 72 Old Kings Highway South. Proposal to construct a series of stepped stone retaining walls with associated landscaping on the north and west sides of the property, and to perform related site development activities. The 0.6 plus or minus acres subject property is located on the north side of Old Kings Highway South, approximately 190 feet west of its intersection with Andrews Drive, and is shown on Assessor's map number 63 as lot number 42 in the R13 zone. Doing the introduction will be Mr.
Jeremy Ginsburg, Planning and Zoning Director. This is a situation on Old Kings Highway number 72. You've probably seen they've been out there doing some rock removal and regrading. I'll call it similar to last application, but this is a much smaller lot. And in this case, what they're doing is putting in some new rock walls. You may have seen some of the wall in the, I'll call it the middle of the project, which is out there now. And so certainly we've been working with the applicant to get them to submit an application and bring an engineer on board. Rob Frangione from Frangione Engineering is here. Before the meeting, we gave Rob a number of questions that the commission's likely to ask. It will help him run through the proposal. It's a little unique in that they're taking the rocks that they're uncovering, if you will, as part of the grading and putting in new walls, which are, and you'll see if you've been to the property, there's much higher elevation than the adjacent property. So Darren Ostefine also commented on this application in a January 20th memo, but I'll turn it over to Rob here, and hopefully Rob, you can go through some of the questions and as part of your presentation to assist the commission in better understanding existing walls, proposed walls, and how it's all going to work.
Sure. Again, for the record, Rob Frangione, talk about great timing. I literally was just on a public hearing with the Rye Planning Board. So that's the great thing about these virtual hearings. I can be in 2 towns at one time.
Very good.
Actually supposed to be in Buchanan tonight too. I delayed that one. Okay, so.
We're happy to have you. We'll be happy to have this parcel attended to.
Yes, so, I got brought on board once this wall was constructed. I'm assuming you can all see the screen that I'm sharing of the plan. So, it was constructed, and really it's kind of like in the middle of the property. So what the plan is to build a series of terraced walls that will have land, that'll be 4 feet high. So up 4 feet, back 4 feet, up 4 feet, and planted in between each of the different terraces. We've provided a planting plan done by Stonebridge Associates that shows how that's going to be screened, and furthermore, how I-95 is going to be screened, or at least attempt to screen I-95. As far as being able to get in there and plant the wall, in between the walls, the walls are open on the sides, and there's this open side here. Let me see if I can do this a little bit better. Oops. Okay, that might be a little easier to read. So you can kind of see how from this upper portion, you can come in here, plant this, and they're only 4 feet high. So if they had to, you could step down with a small step ladder to get in there. Same thing with on this side of the wall. It's going to be open on the sides so the workers could come in and stay entirely on this parcel while doing the work. A question was asked if we think that there might be some more home ramming or any blasting. And speaking with the owner or the owner's builder, we think that there might be about 5 days more, just based on the topographic irregularities. Basically, this property was a cliff, and it was a lot of exposed ledge. And that's what the wall that's here predominantly was made from. That's going to be repurposed in parts to build the wall here. We estimate that with the backfilling and leveling of this area, that it'll be about, I did a cut fill analysis, it's on the site plan, it's about 1,400 yards. Given a 27-yard truck, that's about 50 to 52 truckloads, give or take. We think that this is gonna take about 4 months to do, so 50 trucks over 4 months, it's not a lot of trucks. The driveway will remain in its location. And as far as safety, Jeremy and I talked about it, and I talked it over with my client. Yeah, we're going to propose a chain link fence on the uphill side of the wall. Again, there's going to be screening and planting, and that's the planting plan, so that'll help hide that fence, and that's just to prevent somebody from tumbling over the side of the wall. And, it's quite a drop over there. So that's pretty much the presentation. We provided these plans, the erosion controls. We show on the next slide here, as far as the, right along the perimeter. The area of disturbance, it's only about 10,000 square feet, 10.5, not a big area, it's not a big lot. And so that's really it, unless you have any further questions.
Yeah, Rob, I do have a question. You're going to be out there for 4 months lowering the grade of this property, is that? And then taking the rocks as you lower the grade, saving the rocks on site, and then building walls with these rocks?
We're raising the grade in this corner. Really where the bulk of this wall is in the northwest corner, and we show a proposed 66 contour coming through here, and then 64 comes right here. So this is where the fill really is occurring over here. For the most part, in this area, it's not as much of a fill.
I'll let Jeremy speak.
No, you're not crushing or breaking rock on site or anything like that, are you? Is there going to be any machinery on site?
Just the hoe ram to break up the rock, but no rock tumbler, or what's the
No explosives?
no what?
No explosives.
Well, no, I don't think they plan on blasting. I think they've done the blasting that they intended to do, which they had permits for. They did get a blasting permit for that from the building department.
Okay.
So.
All right.
So what is the surface of this area going to be, in this
Lawn.
person? It is going to be long.
It'll be lawn. I mean, there's so much exposed ledge that was out there. This will be an improvement for runoff simply because it's going to flatten it out. It'll slow down the time of concentration. It'll provide some infiltration, whereas the way it was, there was none. Very little.
And the existing two-story wood frame building, is that to remain?
Yes.
And
There used to be a house on this property, which was torn down. This was long before I got involved.
Right.
And that's roughly from the GIS, so, the town aerial maps, that's roughly where that house was.
So this is beyond the scope of your application, but do you know what the future of that two-story wood frame building is?
The intention is to keep it. Somewhere down the road, once this site is stabilized and the owner has a better idea of, what he's got to work with, he's most likely going to come in with a site plan for a house. I don't know what the disposition of this frame building would be. It's within the front yard setbacks. That's a tale for another night. So
Understood. Yeah, no, I get it. Okay.
Wait, is the applicant, so the applicant began this work and regrading and hoe ramming with permits or no?
So my recollection is the building department did give them a blasting permit to do the
Okay.
work.
Did they have permits to regrade and?
Well, that's where there was a disconnect apparently.
Okay,
so
is this guy a builder?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Is this guy a builder?
Yes.
Okay,
Right?
so he didn't know he needed a permit?
Well, I think he thought he needed a building permit, or, a blasting permit from the building department, which I
But he was
understand.
regrading. He was doing more than blasting. He was regrading.
True.
Okay, and he's a builder.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
No, he knew that when he got the blasting permit in 2021, we had sent the builder a letter saying, wait a minute, this seems a little out of the ordinary. Please let us know what's going on because this is not typical blasting for a construction project. This is blasting and blasting and blasting with no end in sight. And then all these rocks started getting piled up. So certainly there was a lot of concern out of our office. And we did reach out to the property owner because the work he did certainly did require a permit. I think one of the concerns we have, Rob, is not only the amount of hoe ramming, but how the property, if he's going to be out there for 4 months, he's going to be hoe ramming for 5 days out of those 4 months. Is he bringing fill on the site or off the site?
Is there an erosion fence or?
Hang on,
So-
Commissioner Gately, let's get a answer.
Okay, I'll try to tackle those questions one at a time. So yes, the fill's being brought onto the site because, like I said, they're in our cut fill analysis. Well, it's over here on the screen. I can't see it because everybody's faces are over it, but that's where we did, and I did a cut fill analysis. It came out to about 1,400 yards. That's going to have to be imported in order to backfill and put in, topsoil and friable material to get something to grow on it, in addition to, the stone and everything else. So, so that, it could take 3 to 4 months. It could be less. I've imparted upon my client that it is imperative to work as quickly as possible on this one, given the history. I think one of the questions was, is there an erosion control fence? Yes. So it's, I show it along the perimeter. That's what this SB is. That's the silt fence going along the property line. So basically you set the silt fence on the property line and it's a gravity rock wall. You just stack rocks and pile them on top of each other. So.
Now, Rob, as you said, 3-4 months, and the plantings, no drainage to be installed, and your client's aware of the plan you propose, so he can live with this plan that you've put together? He's seen it
Yes.
and can live with it?
Yes. In fact, the landscaping plan was done in concert with the client. You know, he helped pick out the kinds of plantings that he wanted, particularly with screening to 95. You know, the plan by the landscape designer wasn't created in a vacuum. He got the buy-in.
And Rob, your client would be okay if the commission, if they were to approve it, have you come on site every couple weeks to see what's going on, make sure it's in keeping with the plan?
Certainly, if that's what one of the conditions of the permit is, then that's what my client will have to abide by in order to fulfill the permit.
And you said four months?
Approximately.
4 months to do the work?
Approximately, yes.
How will we know when he's done?
Is art ever finished? It'll be substantially complete when the walls are erected and the plantings are in. At that point, you know, the majority of the earthwork will have been completed. You know, getting the grass to grow, that might take a little longer, but the plants, those can just be plopped in per the planting plan. That'll go certainly much quicker than getting the grass to stabilize.
All right.
Rob, your client would be comfortable if we gave him 5 months to be, whatever you get done in 5 months, you're done?
I believe so. I think my client understands, having gone through this now for quite some time, that, you know, we've got to have an endpoint. We can't let this go out in limbo forever. So.
Yeah, I think that's a concern, is he's already been out there working for, what would you say, 4 to 6 months. And you're saying he's got another 4+ months. I think in the interest of the neighborhood and the commission, there gets to be a point, you're like, this is not that big a job. It shouldn't take that long to do. And I don't think the commission wants to see this being an endless construction project.
I agree. It's just, we have to be wary of the weather. I mean, it's, you know, we're about to be February 1st. Even if you were to stack the walls right now, I don't know if you could get the plantings in until March or April for them to start growing through the growing season. So that's why I've got that kind of, you know, approximately 4 months, because 4 months from now gets us into May. At that point, you know, the plantings can have been in and they can be, you know, dealing with that. So.
Ms. Gately.
I guess, so, you know, in other applications where there is blasting, and I always get the words wrong, ramming, I don't know, where, you know, there's like this kind of extensive earthwork going on. We have in the past in residential neighborhoods put conditions around, especially in the COVID era, where people are working from home and children were, you know, remote learning, school at home. And this kind of work is very, in a residential neighborhood, it's disturbing, both from a noise, you know, movement, you know, dust, you know, kind of aspect, trucks, you know, it causes quite a disruption to a residential neighborhood. Are the neighbors aware? Have they been noticed? And are they aware that there will be another expected 4 to 6 months of extensive earthwork going on?
So the neighbors were noticed as required. When
were they noticed?
A couple weeks ago. I have not received.
And when did the work begin?
Oh, the work's been going on for longer than I can remember.
So the neighbors were just
nothing's been going on recently. So that's the other thing. You know, this basically all came to
facts on the record. I'm not questioning you. I'm really trying to get facts on the record just so there's clarity.
Yeah, and I just don't want to give false information. That's the thing.
No, I completely appreciate that. So, but they were noticed recently.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And usually when the neighbor notices go out, I typically get at least one call from a neighbor.
Yeah, nothing.
And I got nothing. So.
Okay. All right. Yeah, because that's my concern, obviously, right? Is like,
Right, and I understand the concern about the noise, that whole ramming brings to the neighborhood, but let's not forget the elephant in the room. We've got I-95 right here.
no, I get that. And I also get that you're probably overextending given weather so that there will not be continuous
Right.
during the entire 4 months. You're giving yourself that time, because I think I heard you say there might be times where it's not possible given.
Right, like right now, we couldn't plant.
Right, right. So, yeah. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that, I mean, it's still, even though there's 95 there, it's still a residential neighborhood. And this is extensive work and extensive land regrading. Yeah, so, thank you.
Mr. Donite want the floor? Mr. Donite, did you want the floor? You're unmuted.
Yeah, I would just note that we did receive a call today from Mr. Michael Kibitz, and he's the neighbor across the street from the subject property. He did have some concerns regarding the application. So when you opened a public comment, he may wish to comment on the application this evening.
Okay, thanks. I just had one more question, back to my favorite topic of that two-story wood frame building. Do you happen to know, I believe it's been rented in the past. Do you know if it is now or will be during this process?
I believe it is being rented currently, and for the foreseeable future.
Okay, and you've got appropriate fencing or other safety measures in place for that? I don't know whether there are kids involved or anything else, but.
Yeah, I mean, the nice thing about this building is it's actually on the complete opposite side of the property and on the other side of the hill from all the work that's going on. So, the kids really have to climb up the big hill in order to get over to here and take a look at what's going on. But, we can.
It's not that big a parcel.
But my point is, we can adequately portion it off so that, people living here, they got to work to get up. And
I would encourage you to do that.
yeah, yes, certainly.
And I also, I'm sure the owner knows that we're pleased that he is, taking the appropriate steps now to improve this parcel, which has, shall we say, been an eyesore for some period of time. So we do want to encourage that, and that's fine. All right, shall I, any other commissioners, any questions? Seeing none, let me open it to
I've got one question, George.
Yeah, go to it.
The obviously the front of the property now, I know it's not part of this application, is pretty derelict. The stone walls is pretty awful, as well as the building. The regrading in the back isn't going to impact any future work that would be done to the front of that property, would it? Like, since you're raising the back up, you're not going to change how the water flows back down onto Old Kings Highway instead of, backwards, right?
No, we are not redirecting water. We're not changing the watershed. This proposed elevation is 66. There's an existing 68 here, and then there's another 68 here. There's a bit of a high point knoll. So whatever water is coming from this high point this way will continue to go that way, and then everything from the house and this high point will continue forward.
Okay.
Okay. All righty, if nothing further from commissioners, let me open it up to the public for any questions or comments. Just unmute your mic, or otherwise there's someone on the phone who's unmuted. CO, any comment, question?
No, my name was mentioned. My name is Michael. I'm the neighbor across the way. So I appreciate you guys having this call, and I'm glad I'm able to join this evening. Just a general comment. I think everybody else on the call kind of has a similar impression of the property in terms of it being derelict, in terms of it being an eyesore. I haven't lived in this area for very long, but since I have been, there's been numerous trucks parked there for long periods of time with zero activity. There has been trucks coming and going with zero activity happening at the house for a number of years. And just an overall, I believe it is relatively unsafe safe in terms of the property, the activity, and the amount of equipment that's there on a regular basis. So reviewing, again, my limited knowledge of construction, but I'm looking at the plans here. I guess my overall question is that these activities I'm hoping will lend itself to some sort of long-term solution, right? So it's no longer just an eyesore. It's no longer just what I would call a vacant parking lot for construction trucks. I just want to make sure that is, I know we're not here for that, but if that is a long-term solution to ultimately build a house and whatever you would call this wood frame building that sits on the side of the road as well.
Before I get a response to that, can I get your last name, spelling, and your address, please?
Sure, it's 77 Old Kings Highway South. Last name is Kivitz, Kivetz.
Thank you. Mr. Frangione, you care to comment on that? Or I expressed my personal opinion that that's exactly what we hope is going to occur over the next 4 months, that this eyesore will be remedied.
And that's what I was brought on board to do, is to try and fix the problem and help get a solution. So, we went through a lot of work to get a planting plan with azaleas and dogwoods and, all kinds of, of course my phone goes off. To make it attractive, to make it better looking than it is now. Because I agree, it's not in a good state in its present condition, and it can be better.
All right, any other public comment or questions? Seeing none, let me suggest, Ms. Gately, did you want to say something, or yeah, go ahead.
No, I just want to follow up because I think that was an important point that the neighbor raised, and having, followed zoning and enforcement issues in our neighboring towns and cities of Stamford and Norwalk, there is a significant issue in those towns of lots being used to, park where there's no other parking available, construction vehicles and large equipment. And this has been an ongoing issue in neighboring towns. So I feel bad because I think you're probably not equipped, don't have, this is not your wheelhouse to answer this question, but are they committed and understand, or do we as a town have an answer or a solution to this parking enforcement issue?
Is that a question for me or Jeremy?
It's different than the planting and the other stuff, right? It's sort of a different issue.
Yes.
But I think
Jeremy Ginsburg, Planning and Zoning Director. I agree with you, Kara. And that was my question of earlier. How will we know when this is done? And that's why it may be helpful to have Mr. Frangione on site on a routine basis, because what we don't want this to turn into is I'll call it the never-ending project, where the builder has his vehicles out there, there's little to no activity, and just what the neighbor across the street mentioned, month after month after month, they're dragging their feet and just parking vehicles. So I think it's imperative in this case, if Mr. Frangione, who's a professional engineer, can represent that it's a 4-month job, and maybe the commission can dictate, hey, once you get a starting date, you have 4 months to complete the project. 5 days of that can be hole ramming, and then you're done. You can't have this drag on and on and on, moving rocks, moving dirt, and having vehicles parked out there disrupting the neighborhood. I think it would be in everyone's best interest to finish the project. And I know, Mr. Frangione, we did talk about this when you came into the office, about making sure that it's a project and it doesn't become a contractor's yard.
I had a conversation with the owner's rep earlier today about that, explaining that, this needs to move along, and we can't park any kind of commercial vehicles on the property if there's not a project going on. So I did impart that to him.
Okay, thank you for that. At this point, if there's no further comment from the public or the commissioners, questions?
Sorry, just one more comment. I mean, you guys mentioned an end date, but is there a way to document a start date? Like what? I'm not familiar with the program, but will they come to you if they were starting on February 1st?
Expect it will be when the permit is issued, but Mr. Ginsburg have a different answer?
Right. In this case, if the commission closes the public hearing tonight, they have a few months to make a decision, but it's likely they'll get a decision in mid-February, say the 8th or the 15th, something like that. And that would be a logical thing to do, is to say that once they should email the office once work is about to commence, and they have 4 months from that date to complete the project. So certainly it may take them a week or 2 or 3 to figure out how they want to get started. And then once they notify the office, certainly that would be one way to do it. But it will, if the commission does close the hearing tonight, it's likely that they won't get a decision till February 8th or 15th.
Great, thank you.
All righty. Then I suggest a motion to close the application.
Hello? Hello?
Hello, yes?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now.
Wonderful. My name is Michael Agostino. I've been listening to the comments being made. There's a little bit of misinformation here. I'd like to clear the air for people. The property is significantly improved as to what it was. Because we've had to stop working on the property, it's been sitting idle. So now what's going to happen is the long-term plan is to build a house there, not to use it as a construction warehouse or yard to park vehicles or anything else. The idea is to build a brand new home there. That has always been the objective. Now, we have to go through the process of building retaining walls and bringing in planting and doing all that. The weather will play a significant role in that, because we don't know what's going to happen in February or March as far as the weather is concerned. And we can't buy plants until probably the end of March to the beginning of April sometime, before the nurseries even have the plants. The idea here is that we will go in there, finish doing the walls, get the planting done, and clean the property up. The building that's existing there now is so-called cottage that was part of the old property. That building will stay permanently, which is what the owner wants. It will be used as a storage facility after when the house gets built. The condition to getting a permit to building a new house is that the facility could not be used for anything more than a storage facility. So that will happen then. Trucks will only be there and equipment will only be there when it's being used, not to park there or anything else along those lines. Now, there isn't that much work to do as far as the grading is concerned. The majority of rock has been broken.
Then why do you need 4 months?
Please, Ms. Gately, hang on.
No, go ahead. I'm listening.
Mr. Agostino,
Okay.
what is your relationship to this matter?
I know the owner. He's a landscaper, not a builder. And I know the owner. He bought the property.
Commissioner Gately, could I have a second, please? I'm just wondering, are you his representative, or what is your function?
Yes. Well, I'm not. I'm working with him. I'm trying to assist him to get through this process and to move forward. He had contacted me a while back telling me he was having some issues, and could I please intercede with planning and zoning and to try to get things moving along so that he can get the property prepared to build on.
Can I get your address, please?
My address?
Yeah.
My address is 35 Timber Mill Road, Stamford, Connecticut.
Okay.
06903.
All right. Now you recognize we've heard all of this, I think, from Mr. Frangione. It's been.
Yes, I know. I just want to make sure, because when you don't have all the information in the facts, it's easy to think something that's not completely accurate. And as I said, the idea here now is to go in and prepare the property with the land use permit so that a house can be built on the property.
Yes. Yes, sir. Thank you. You did say that. So we need to move on. Appreciate it. Ms. Gately, anything further?
Well, I mean,
anything we haven't covered?
Well, only that there seems to be an inconsistency now between, unfortunately, the two representatives. The new guy and
I think we've got to rely on the paid
that's what I'm hoping. He's saying the work is almost done and we don't need, and we're going to start building a house.
We have a designated representative from the owner, so I think we got to
Right,
stick
so
with.
I just think we need clarity on that now that there's been another speaker who claims that he's also speaking for the owner.
So Mike and I have discussed this. He was the person who was in the office earlier today. My job is to get the land filling and regrading permit so that we can bring this to a resolution. And my future endeavor with this will be to somewhat shepherd it, I suppose, which will be part of the permit condition. I feel like we really should not be saying anything further on this. It's like pushing through an open door. So with that, if there's any further questions, I'll be quiet.
Then may I suggest a motion to close the application? Or, yeah, Mr. Rand, okay, we have a second for that notion. Or do you want to continue to talk? I'm not seeing a second for this motion. All right.
George, I did not see anyone else from the public that wanted to speak. I don't see anyone else.
No, I don't either, but unless Mr. Commissioner Belgatch, is there a reason you don't want to second that motion? I can't hear you.
Sorry, I just unmuted it. No, I'm just entirely taken aback by what just happened. So Rob, do you know that prior speaker? Have you met him? Is that
Yes.
He was in your office today?
Yes.
So is he, you said that you spoke with the owner regarding the planting plan, and he was fully aware of it. Does this other individual, is he also aware of it?
Yes.
Yes.
We've gone through all these plans. I've given copies to both the owner and Mr. Agostino. Yes, we are on the same page. We're in the same book. Reading the same book.
Is Mr. Agostino the contractor who'll be doing the work?
No.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
Is he the contractor that'll be doing the work?
No.
The answer was no.
Okay.
They do have to be a contractor to do this, so.
Okay. No, I guess not. It's odd, but.
There's a motion on the table. Motion has been made to close this up. Is that a second, Mr. Bell?
I'll second it, yeah.
All right. Then commissioners in favor, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And the chairman is weighing in as well with a positive vote. Thank you. All right. So this application is closed. Thank you. We'll look forward to that resolution.
Thank you very much.
I am happy to turn the spotlight over to the chair and thank him for the opportunity to serve. Can't hear you, Mr. Chairman.
How about, is that better? I hit the wrong button. I'm sorry for being late, everybody. I appreciate you, George, taking over. Thank you very much. So without further ado, we'll just keep moving on. The next item on the agenda is land filling and regrading application number 523 Peter Doyle at 289 West Avenue. Proposal to widen the existing driveway with an associated retaining wall and to perform related site development activities, including cutting of the existing grade on the northwest portion of the property to accommodate the widening. The 0.6 plus or minus acre subject property is located on the south side of West Avenue, approximately 70 feet east of its intersection with Bridgeley Street. It is shown on Assessor's map number 75 as lot 11 in the R1/5 zone. This sounds like a project right like the one that was next door. The woman.
Yes,
What do
Jeremy
we got?
Ginsburg, Planning and Zoning Director. Mr. O'Vanny's right. We did see a similar application a few doors down at 288 West Avenue or across the street, I believe. Similar fact pattern. We have a driveway with retaining walls on both sides. In this case, the property owner wants to widen the driveway, get a little more room in there, make it a little easier for cars to get in and out. Because the grading is near the property line, it requires a land filling and regrading application to the commission. We did refer to this to Assistant DPW Director Darren Ostafine, who sent a memo dated January 19, 2022. He acknowledged that although no stormwater retention is proposed, it's approximately 150 square feet of new impervious surface, which is well below the threshold of 1,000 square feet. So one of the issues DPW has is to make sure that no new stone wall gets constructed on town property. They would need a permit to do that. Again, West Avenue is a town road, so they would need a street opening permit to widen it and approval to put the stone wall into the right of way, and that has to be approved by DPW. Want to make sure that I'll call it the curve of the driveway doesn't go in front of the adjacent property. And based on the plans that were submitted, it does not appear that that is the case. Mr. Doyle, the property owner's here to add anything to what I just mentioned. I'll let him explain how long the project's going to take, what the regrading is going to look like, and any details I may have left out. Mr. Doyle.
Hello, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It should take about 2 weeks or less, and we plan on doing it with minimal impact. We're just simply moving the wall back 5 feet. So we're going to take the wall down, and we're going to put up fabric to hold the soil back, and we're going to construct a new wall with drainage. Basically a better wall that's there right now. And we don't plan on impacting or going past the sidewalk or the town property.
Mr. Doyle, how large is your property?
Well, I submitted a survey that I had done also to bring it up to a newer survey. So the property is, sorry, I would have had that information if I knew you needed it.
That was my question. Because the public notice says it's 0.6 acres, which is more than a half an acre, and you're in a 1/5 acre zone, which is 20,000 square feet. Or actually, it's 15,000 feet. So I'm trying to, something's wrong. And I have this, what we call this a survey. I can't read the number on it. So it's probably just some kind of typo.
Right. Can you pass me the survey? I have it over there. Rolled. Just take a look. All right.
It is unmuted.
Turn on.
Oh, yes. Speaker is.
So the area is 7,500 square feet.
I'm doing this. There you go. What do we think, Peter? Is it on there or no?
Yeah, it said 7,500 square feet on the survey I just had done.
Okay, I just want to make sure it's right. In honesty, it doesn't have a whole lot of effect with the wall that you're going to move. The only question I really have is, right now it looks like there's bushes on top of that wall between you and the neighbor. Do you plan on landscaping it after you move the wall 5 feet?
Mm-hmm. So it was, overgrown shrubbery, which we removed. We're going to replant with new shrubbery and plantings.
Okay, great. Okay. That's what I figured. Yeah. Okay. The public notice for the record is incorrect. The lot, I think, is 50 by 150 or 115. 150 by 50, which is most of the lots in that neighborhood. So we'll get that corrected when this
much
final thing is
feedback.
found. Does any,
There's-
have any questions to
sorry.
this application?
Steve, there is so much feedback. I can only hear like every fourth word.
I know, this is not working. Can you turn off your speaker? Okay, can you hear me
heard
now?
something about
My
public notice.
speaker's not working on my computer. That's the problem, Karen. I'm sorry.
I just want to make sure, I heard something about public notice. And so I just want to make sure that kind of stuff gets on the record. And maybe it's getting on the
This
record
is
and I
not,
just
but
can't
that's
hear it,
not.
and that's fine.
What the heck? Jesus. We're never gonna get, well, that's not good. Get rid of that, Eric. It's back to you again. I don't know.
Close your mic. I'm gonna open my.
Karen, can you hear me now?
I can.
There you go, good. I can hear you too. I'm sorry, Mr. Doyle. All right, let's go back to where we were. Do any other commissioners have any questions relative to this application? Jim Rand, yes, sir.
Yeah, what I need, just to get this straight in my own mind, is somebody, maybe Jeremy, you can do it. The drawings that we have of the existing driveway and the 15-foot driveway. You mentioned, or someone in town mentioned the encroachment of the wall into the street.
I'll take this, Jeremy.
Am I expressing that the way you intended? Okay.
Yes.
Is it okay now? And would it be okay the way it's drawn here, this red line going out into whatever it says Eversource?
Yeah, Jim, this is Fred Donite. Let me clarify that for you. Mr. Darren Ostafine, Assistant Director of Public Works, in his comments to the commission, wrote, the application will include construction of a stone wall on town property, which is specifically prohibited by written policy of DPW. The DPW does grant exceptions when retention walls are required to provide access to the site. So we did speak to Mr. Ostafine about this, and he indicated to us that the DPW was granting the waiver for this wall in coordination with DPW policy. He also notes that there's a pull-off parallel parking space that the DPW does not allow, and that this is an existing condition on the site. Mr. Ostafine also said that they were waiving that, and because it's an existing condition, an existing non-conforming condition on the site, that they are not requiring any change in that regard.
So there'll be so somebody can parallel park along the front of the property.
Yes, that's correct. Someone can parallel park along the property.
Okay, last question. One of the neighbors, when I was out at the property trying to figure it all out, expressed some concern about the setback rules and so forth, having had a previous experience that I think, without putting words in her mouth, I would say left her somewhat confused. And that may be the application that Jeremy was referring to. It's the next door neighbor. Now,
And are you referring to the setback of the side yard setback?
Yes.
Of the driveway and the retaining wall?
Yeah, I mean, if this is 3.5 feet enough?
Yes, So there is no required setback. The driveway and retaining wall can essentially be right on the property line. So there is no specific setback in that regard for a driveway and a retaining wall.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other commissioners have any questions? Karen was good, Jim, we got him, Adam's good. George, you're okay? George, thumbs up from George. And I think Jeff Paul's on the phone, so I can't see him, if he would chime in if he had any questions. Is anyone in the general public like to speak to this application? If you can turn on your video and turn on your mic, if you can. Seeing none, with that said, it's a pretty straightforward application. We did something similar across the way, and I understand what Mr. Doyle is trying to do. So with that said, I'll entertain a motion to close. Motion from Adam, looking for a second. Kara Gaines got the second. All in favor? 5-0. 5-0. Thank you. Mr. Doyle, we're going to probably debate this or deliberate this in a week or two. Yeah, pretty straightforward.
Decision February 15th.
Great. Did you hear that, sir?
I did. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you for coming in.
I appreciate your time. Thank you.
That is the end of the public hearing. Now we're going to go into the general meeting.
You have to say goodbye to me.
Oh, goodbye, Karen Gately. See you next week.
Just in time to pick up from basketball. Bye, guys.
Ms. Gately is recusing herself from this application. We're going to go into parklands. And we'll do a draft, right?
Yes, this is the zone change application, is the first item the commission is going to discuss.
That's two. I'll read it into the record. Proposed amendments to the Darien zoning map COZM number 2, 21 Street Parklands Drive, put forth by Parklands Darien LLC. This is the proposal to apply for design office multifamily residential overlay, the DOMR, to the subject property, permit residential dwellings as a principal use requiring a special permit for 3.915 plus or minus acre subject properties located on the southern end of Parklands Drive, approximately 1,100 feet south of its intersection of Old Kings Highway North and the Australian Assessor's Map number 35 is lot number 34 for unit 2 in the design office zone. And we have and we have a draft resolution that was adopted. We debated this or deliberated this, is a better word, a couple of weeks ago. At the end of the day, I think everyone was on board with granting the overlays to land.
People have their mics on. I can hear like a baby in the background, somebody shuffling papers. Can everybody mute their microphones?
Can you do that, Fred, or somebody from TV 79 do that?
No, it wasn't you guys.
Yeah,
I think we have the overriding control to close.
I'm gonna go ahead and mute everyone on this conference right now. If you want to speak, you'll have to open your microphone.
You've been muted by the organizer and by yourself. Okay. So at the end of the day, the test or the
Right, the standard for the commission under the state statutes is the proposal consistent with the town plan of conservation and development? And you may recall there was evidence at the public hearing presented by the applicant and evidence presented by the neighbors. When the commission deliberated at their meeting on January 11th, the sense I got, Donite and I as staff, is the consensus of the commission was that this new overlay zone, which the commission established last year in 2021, could be applied to this property. You may recall when this came before the commission last year to create this new overlay district, the commission did approve that and adopt that change, but did not apply it to a property at that time. The subject application is to take that overlay and apply it to the 3.9 plus or minus acre property, which we've been referencing as 3 Parklands Drive. So the draft resolution walks through the evidence, the findings, talks about the proper standard and condition of finding number 8, what is the standard, and what, as with any zoning change, the commission needs to establish an effective date, which must be after the date that the notice gets published. So you can see if the commission were to vote tonight, it would get published in the Darien Times on February 3rd. So it can only go into effect once filed with the town clerk, and usually our policy has been to give us a little time to staff to print up new, in this case, it would be a new zoning map, and file that zoning map with the town clerk.
Okay, one quick typo I think I have. Number, page 3B, December 22nd, 2022.
I think you're correct, but let me pull the file which I have here. I think that could be 2020. You're correct.
Okay. Okay, and just for a little bit of clarification, can everybody hear me? If you can, just say yes. Yep, good, okay. And just for clarification, one of the things I think Commissioner Rand brought up last go around on page 2, number 6, it says the placement of the overlay zone does not prohibit the continuation of the office building use on the premises. If they never do anything to this after the zoning gets changed, the office building can stay forever and be used forever. It doesn't preclude the office building use on the property. What else? Questions, comments, typos, scrivener's errors on this one? If you have anything you picked up or caught other typos besides what I just mentioned, that would be great. It talks about the petition. Okay. Pretty much it. If you guys remember, this overlay zone goes to everyone that's a design office zone, which includes other buildings that are in this zone too, which is the truck stop, 85 Old Kings Highway. Excuse me, I think it goes to the tennis building, some building at Tokeneke Road.
That's correct. Could be applied to those. The applicants in those cases, the property owners would have to come before the commission in a very similar procedure as we had for this application, public hearing to apply that overlay zone.
Right, and there's also, this Thorndale Circle Office Park, which is Mr. Nielsen, Jerry Nielsen's property. Anything I missed on this one, anybody? Jim Rand, you okay? Yep. Adam, you okay? George, Riley, you okay? And then Jeff Ball is here with his Ranger jersey. He's okay. Okay, with that said, I entertain a motion to approve this resolution as edited.
Adam
makes a motion. Looking for a second. Jeff Ball makes a second. There you go. All those in favor?
5-0.
Not enough. Perfect. Okay. That's great. That piece is done. The next item that we have on the agenda, I'll read it into the record. Deliberations only on the following items: site plan application number 309, special permit application number 42-I. Is that dash wrong?
That's I.
It's I, okay. Land filling regrading application number 516, Parklands Development LLC, 1 Parkland Drive and 3 Parkland Drive. Proposal to raise the existing office building at 3 Parklands Drive, convert and redevelop the property as a multifamily residential, consistent with the design office multifamily residential overlay zone (DOMR) regulations, and perform related site development activities, including the regrading of the property, installation of landscaping, lighting, stormwater management, The applicant proposed to construct a 3-story multifamily building with a total of 60 apartments, studios, 1 and 2 bedroom apartments, including 7 deed restricted affordable units. A total of 139 parking spaces will be created, of which 86 of which are proposed for use by the residents of 3 Parklands Drive, and 53 of which are proposed to be shared with the assisted living facility at 1 Parklands Drive. Assessor's map number 35, lot 34, unit number 1. Improvements to 1 Parklands Drive are limited to sidewalk extensions, underground utilities, parking and related improvements. 3 Parklands Drive is a 3.915 plus or minus acres and is located on the southern end of Parklands Drive, approximately 1,100 feet south of its intersection with Old Kings Highway North, and is shown on Assessor's map number 35, lot 34, unit number 2, currently in the design office zone DO. Companion zoning map change proposed to rezone 3 Parklands Drive to design office multifamily residential overlay zone, DOMR. The application materials are on file and reviewed for public review in the planning zoning office and online at darianct.viewpointcloud.com. Okay, Jeremy, you gave us green sheets again.
Yeah, what we wanted to do is kind of have the commission methodically walk through this in terms of issues, concerns. I know some commission members asked that we put things that were in the record in your packets to bring it to your attention. It's quite an extensive record. Obviously, we heard about 9 hours of testimony. There's a number of letters from neighbors, submittals from the applicants, etc. So there's a lot to digest here. We may not even get through it all tonight, but at least what we wanted to do is see if we can figure out where the consensus amongst the 5 commission members is in terms of how to address the site plan and special permit. So as we discussed last time, there's specific standards in the Darien zoning regulations, section 1020 for the site plan, section 1005 for the special permit, and the land filling and regrading is addressed through section 850 of the zoning regulations. So I know there's a lot of topics that the commission will need to touch on. Certainly we addressed the zoning map. The commission just voted on that a few minutes ago, so we don't have to cover that as part of this because it has already been rezoned. So I don't know if you want to start with the site plan, the special permit, if you want to take it by topic, say drainage, grading, landscaping, you want to talk about procedural issues with construction. Not sure how you want to begin in terms of the deliberations.
What I was thinking is do some of the potential proofs with this one.
Yeah.
So here. Because some of those items we talked about that. We talked about it at various different times. And I think if we give you direction on that or come to consensus on that, we can take a chunk at. The first time I'm on what I call the green sheets, which is our cheat sheet that Jeremy puts in our packets, or the staff puts in our packet. Potential conditions of approval to address concerns. The first bullet point is here is maintain access to select woods during construction, public access easement. We definitely do not want to cut off anything with regards to getting to Select Woods and those. I think there's 9 parking spaces that exist today. Yeah, there's 9 parking spaces today, and we don't want to cut off people with their cars, with their. I don't know if dogs are allowed on beach. I don't know. I don't remember.
Yes.
Yeah, they are, right?
Yep.
Dogs are allowed most things on beach. I don't think there's any argument relative to that. So in terms of staging and planning, that's going to have to make sure that gets maintained. Anybody have a problem with that? I want to go as fast as I can, or as not fast, quickly as I can, and thorough as I can. So, and if everyone has a problem, just chime in. The next item is requirement to post performance bonds for planning and drainage. I think this is an offshoot of what Commissioner Rand suggested last week or 2 weeks ago on this. I think it's a great idea. The plantings, we've had issues with plantings at places like Highland Farms where the cane and plant didn't go. And the drainage is important to everybody, especially. I think the biggest question is how big of a bond is one, and two, when will it sunset?
Yeah, we can, as staff, we can try to figure that out based on the plans, what's there. So certainly we can do that. Is when do they have to be posted, and when would the contractor be able to request a release? So staff can work on that.
Okay. My initial question or suggestion, both in one, is a year from the first temporary TCO is issued. To get you through a full year, which is really for the drainage bonds. I just know that when that other building was built, that was a big question, a big problem that came up. I'd like it to get through a full year before anything like that gets lifted. Anybody have any questions relative to the drainage at this point? And a bond for that? Okay. Jen?
Yeah, if I may, I think that it has to be drafted in such a way that the test is, does it work? Not, did we install the 150 feet of PVC pipe that we said we would in the plan? It's got to be, does it work? And I think some effort, as long as I can volunteer the staff for additional work, should try to ascertain from the residents that complained about the nursing home what the baseline should be. Because if there's no change from last year to next year, then the bond should be released. I mean, it would not make it worse. But the question is, where do we start? And that's all I got to say.
I think one idea, Jim, I know what the commission has done with the Federal Realty project is you brought in an outside engineer. In that case, it was, I believe it was Joe Rizzoli's office, who is, I'll call it, keeping an eye on or going out and seeing firsthand the installation. So even though in that case, Federal Realty had their own engineering firm, there was an outside engineer hired at the applicant's expense to ascertain that it was installed properly. And certainly that is a potential to, as you said, Jim, there's two aspects. Install it properly, number one, and make sure it works.
No, does it have to work within a, what's the proper word? A level of what it was designed to do?
Right, and then I think that's the other aspect is, these systems are designed to meet certain storm standards, whether it be 50-year or 100-year, whatever it's designed for. So in the case of the September storm, you may recall that many engineers say that was a 500-year storm. So no drainage system in Darien is designed to that extent. So certainly, Jim, your point is a good one, that we have to acknowledge the word, the phrase, is it working, to the storms it was addressed to address, so to speak. So you're right, Jim, that's important to document, is it's not, the system that they've designed won't handle a 500-year storm, but it will handle say a 50-year storm.
So I think that what I was looking for was tolerance. So it's within a 90% tolerance or something like that. Because relative to like things like the federal project, that was not designed to fix all the flooding on Hydro. It's designed to cope it. Okay. So, is that okay? So relative to the value of the bond, I'm gonna leave that up to you. George, you turn your microphone on, sir?
I just wanted to add into the mix here, the question of what is handling a 100-year storm? Does that mean there's no overflow into, in particular, the Salix Woods, Dunlap Woods area? Or does it mean that it's moderated or that there's no flow because it's all in the Caltex drainage system or whatever it is? I don't know the answer to that question. I'm just supposing we would need to define success, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's what I was trying to articulate, where it's a level of tolerance that it's designed for, and relative to the example that Jeremy gave, where there's a third engineer, I'm going to call it, that's overseeing federal to make sure that's done. Because you got to remember, when federal did it first, their application had an engineer. Then we got a third-party engineer look over that, do that, and now there's another engineer on top of that, making sure the things put in as designed.
It might be, it depends, it will be,
Same guy.
it could be, higher. It depends who we're able to bring on like that, but certainly that, we want to make sure that everything is done correctly. I think that's the key here.
That's working as designed.
Yeah.
Okay. Then the other piece of that one bullet point is plantings. And that's the same thing. I don't know if we have a full sense of what the other plantings are and where they're going to be. Most of them, I think it's currently designed, they're on the, I'm going to call it the east side, which is the side that faces the truck stop. It's not the side that goes.
Right here.
I'm grabbing with north, south, east, west.
Good question.
But that, and we're gonna probably get into this later on if we want any more plantings or less plantings. I don't think we want that.
You may recall that Matt Comm of Environmental Land Solutions prepared a landscape plan. A version I have here in my hand is dated November 3rd, 2021.
So the way we usually do those in terms of sunsets, which is my big thing, is to get through one growing season. So it meant from the date they're put in, which may be 6 months after the temporary certificate of occupancy is issued, depending on the completion date. Then it's going to go one growing season with that, which can end up actually being like a year and a half. Right? And again, we have to figure out, values and whatnot.
We'll work on that.
Okay. Anybody have any questions or problems relative to that? And remember, the thing we have to remember, there's two functions or people here. One's the applicant and one's a developer. At this point in time, they're not necessarily the same. They may be the same, they may not be the same. So when we're talking about these items, we're going on the guy who's building the building.
Correct. There'll be a point where, and in this case, with every application the commission sees, it's not specific to the applicant, but we run with the property. So
Right.
yes, we'll have to make clear that, and that's what we're talking through today is what conditions, how does the commission be able to make the requisite findings, special permits?
Because two quick examples just for your edification is one is relative to federal. That first resolution was done by Tom Golden. And part of that stuff carried on for years and years and years, was passed out to federal. And the other example is 3 Parklands Drive. That applicant was one Parklands Drive. That applicant was not the ultimate builder of the project. After the project was approved, the land transfer and a new person built it. So everyone just remembers and knows that this stuff runs with the land. Any questions, comments on those 2 items? As we get to the next one. Okay. The next one on here is requirement for construction management, logistics plans, file prior to issuing of building permits, hours, construction, delivery, settlement, control, whatnot. a lot of this stuff is pretty much, I'm gonna say boilerplate or, you know, what we do all the time. In a lot of instances, did they file as a staging plan for this or construction schedule? A phasing plan, I think.
I don't think they did. I'll have to go through and check the records. And so if they didn't, that could certainly be a requirement for the commission is staging, phasing plan.
Okay, so something like that is staging and phasing plan. So for argument's sake, the demolition of the building is gonna take, you know, 3 months. And then they're gonna grade it for 3 months, and then the steel goes up for 3 months. I've seen Redis and Mead do things like that before. It's a really cool spreadsheet. We definitely had it for Oxford School.
Yeah.
When that was done, because that was really important. This is kind of similar to Oxford School, because at Oxford School, you have the school going on and kids going in and out, and this one, we got an apartment building going on, and people go, I mean, it's just a living going on, kids going in and out.
Right.
Anybody have any questions relative to something like that? It ends up being a long spreadsheet, and it's got a bunch of colors, and it goes up and down. It's kind of cool. And when you say on time, on budget, those guys pulled out that spreadsheet, and they said, right now, we're, you know, 15 weeks in the project, and we should be at X spot. When you look at it, they're at X spot, they're dead on. Hours of construction deliveries, what's our standard with that? Gonna match?
Yeah, usually construction is sun up to sundown. That's typical building department type construction. And most contractors, builders start about 7 a.m., go to about 3. Certainly if the commission wants to say nothing can start prior to 7, that would be pretty typical.
Do we ever do that? Does it change at all when the building's enclosed?
I think what the commission has done in the past is, as you're getting toward the end of the project, where you're doing interior finishes, painting, et cetera, if it's indoor work, you can certainly start earlier. But generally, the commission has in the past said, no outdoor construction type work before 7 a.m.
Do they come back sometimes on stuff like that? I just feel it. I just think like Tokeneke Club, they came back, you know, 6 months into it, so we really need to paint on Sundays.
Yeah, I think indoor work is different than outdoor work.
All right, so you see where I'm going at there? People like right now, Federal has not enclosed their 2 new apartment buildings. The one that's on West Avenue is pretty much very, very close to being fully enclosed. They're doing the outside shingling on it. And then once they start putting in bathrooms and interior, you couldn't hear from the exterior anyway. The other that's in Federal's parking lot is still wide open. It's not closed. So there might be a shift. I think right now, if we just lock it in at one time frame, and then if they want to come back later, we can say, hey, it's all enclosed. You know, we do that. Is that okay with everybody? I'm getting shaking heads. Good. Okay. Sediment and erosion controls, that's pretty much standard operating procedure. All that stuff's got to be in place well in advance.
Yep.
Gets inspected by everybody before they start construction. Public contact phone number. How have we been handling that? Well, that's 2 things, a public contact phone number versus calling you.
Yeah, I think we found that generally to be successful, where there's a contact of the contractor, builder, someone, if there's a problem or issue that can be reached out to, who might be able to address it 7 days a week.
Okay. In the state of New York, on the building permit, it says on the bottom, any information, please contact, and it's got the names and phone numbers of people. Did we do that around here?
We do make people post their building permit, but in this case, we can certainly.
Is that a contact name?
The contact name would be on the permit, but not necessarily a number, but certainly that could certainly be a condition.
Okay, if we could do that, would be great. But when I go to construction sites in New York, if you go there, the things under construction, it's right next to the building permit is a contact list. A lot of this, you know, the first one's 311, but then it says like, you know, structure, tone, construction, this is their phone number if you have any problems or issues. That's in Connecticut, they don't really do that. I've not seen it around here, but I know I see it in New York. So that's something where if you go over and you're there at, 6:55 in the morning, you take a picture of people working, you can call somebody and contact them versus us. And that's gonna be something we call like a liaison.
Yeah, we can certainly call it liaison, names and contact liaisons.
Okay. Is everyone okay with that? That something's gonna get posted, next to the building permit at the property. Versus, send out some kind of email blast to a neighborhood, which is, I don't know if that works. Right, next is limits on blasting, home ramming and chipping. We always have that, do we give them the number of days for, do they have blasting?
I think there was some blasting, there's a piece of ledge that needs to come out. I have to reread the record. Fred, do you remember?
Yeah, I think we'll have to get some further clarification on,
We'll have to reread the record
on specifically what how many days that they're requesting. I seem to recall it was something like 4 or 5 days. It wasn't a lot, but we'll have to go back to the record and confirm what that is.
I think the record's what, like two filing draws full?
Yeah, pretty much.
There's 9 hours of testimony, but we certainly the P&Z minutes are helpful to us in tracking down when they talk about a topic. So we'll track that down, staff track down blasting.
So usually what we do relative to that, we give them a couple days of blasting and a couple days of programming. Relative to blasting, there's fire marshal permits and notification permits, all that stuff. That's all, again, standard operating procedure, which I don't think will ever change. Because once we've created these best practices, we try to stick to them as long as we can regularly stick to them. But I think for the most part, we have developed them and stuck to them.
It's really just one portion of the site where there's a ledge outcropping. There's not many different areas on the site that need to be blasted. I think it's restricted to just a relatively small area of the site. So,
because it's kind of scraping it.
Yeah.
And the new building's supposed to be in the same spot as basically the old building.
Right.
Everyone's good? Again, just scream me if I miss you. Supplementation or modification of landscaping screening in key areas, larger plantings or more plantings shown on the limited landscaping plan. This is partially me and partially the neighbors. I'm trying to figure out how we get the general public from not going through this grill section.
I think that hold on.
I mean, I don't remember if they ever did an alternate site plan.
They did. They made some changes. So there in the November 3rd letter, because you had asked that last time. The November 3rd letter from Mr. Flaherty talks about that change. And I think that's in, if I recall, number 40 on page 12. Public access to the courtyard. Mr. Flaherty's response was, we revised the site plan to indicate a sidewalk following the access drive around the easterly side of the building, which no longer cuts through the residential courtyard. Because you had asked that at the meeting.
So this is here now?
Yes, this has been revised. I think this is revised plan, the November 11th plan.
So it's got to be a couple of days before November 3rd. Anything before November 3rd should be there.
And this is the old landscaping plan. This is the October 8th version. So the version you're looking at
This is November 3rd. With that trail and sidewalk. Okay, good. All right, so that my issue was taken care of. The other issue was some of the neighbor comments were that the largest trees were on the.
Here's the north.
Yes, that's the west side.
This building one.
So that's west. Yep, this is California.
Yep.
Main team.
Yep.
That's California main team. So right now, most of the trees are on the west side of the property. Those are the big ones, which are ARs, which are Easter, Lombardi. There's 8 of those guys on the west side of the property. There's not a whole lot on the east side of the property. Remember, partially because this thing is above the site slopes up from west up to east. But one of the neighbor requests was to put additional screening on that side. Is there a spot where we can put it? This is a road here, right?
Yeah, we'll have to look closer at the plan. There are some existing plantings. If you look on Matt Pop's plan, he shows some of the existing trees. Yeah. And so that's the key is there room to put in new plantings and how much room? Again, what he shows at the, I'll call it east part of the site is this existing tree area,
which is called woods.
Right, which he's labeled as woods. Is there a room, is there an ability to fill in strategic areas, some additional plantings to help minimize visual impact, if you will?
Okay. But remember, the Ferry Road is way down low. You gotta look up to see this thing, but to the extent that you could put in some more, what's this thing here, you think?
That's a wall. That's a small, it says proposed retaining wall, right here on the plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We're just, I'm looking at the landscaping plan from environmental land pollution, which is Matt Pop, done a lot of work in town, and overlaying that with the site plan, which is done by Redness and Mead. Certain things are there, certain things are not there. So I guess this is our property line here, right?
Right, so in certain places, you wouldn't have any room to put, like between the edge of the building, and then you get the, I'll call it the emergency egress road, and then you get the retaining wall. Not a lot of room to put plantings in.
What about on the east side of the retaining wall? Here.
Here, that would not be on this property, that would be.
Here's property,
The property line is here. See the retaining wall goes in. So you can't put it there. So you might be able to squeeze in some here or here in certain places, or make the ones that are proposed a little bit taller. That might be another option.
So what's it say?
Right, so this is the property line, right there. Right on the edge of that retaining wall. Very little room on, I'll call it the west side of the retaining wall to add more plantings.
So I put them here.
Right, you might have to find some.
Got here. Okay. Yeah, that's it. There's a 12-inch birch tree there, a 36-inch oak tree, an 18-inch oak tree, an 18-inch oak tree. Okay. We'll have to look at that, okay? I'm on the side, talk about the east side of the property, which is the side that's closer to Fairmead Road. That's where the neighbor said there's trees on the other side, not on this side. But you got to remember that from Fairmead Road, you're looking up, you're looking into a set of woods before you see the building. But the woods are, they exist. I don't know. There's leaves on the trees 9 months a year. There's not leaves on trees. I'm not down there yet since before. That's it. Anybody have any questions on that guy? We're good. We'll move that. As-built survey certification required, certified engineer on site. There are key aspects of drainage, insulation, we talked about that. Installation of sediment and erosion control prior to construction, we talked about that. That's again, standard operating procedure, right?
Yes.
Okay. Potential reductions in intensity of development, number of units, size, and other. I'd like to see this thing go down by like 10%. That's my number. I don't know if anyone's any comments relative to that. I just think it's big.
I missed the critical word there. You want to get it down to what?
10%. Reduce it by 10%.
Okay.
I just think 60 units is allowed. We're doing 60 units over at Palmer's. We just finished that thing. That's in 3 of the building. It's a little bit of a different site. I don't know if anybody has any questions, comments, thoughts, likes it, doesn't like it. And you can do it. It goes both ways, where it's number of units and also square footage of the building. But I welcome anybody's thoughts on something like that. Jeff Paul, you just turned your hat on. You get your beard on. Want to go first?
Well, just because I turned my camera on, you thought I had swing? Or, I mean, so is 10% what what is your recommendation, or?
That's what I'm thinking in my head.
Okay.
I would say at a minimum, and I would go.
Exactly. Yeah.
bigger.
Sorry, George. I don't mean to cut you off, but you know, just second thought to it is it definitely at a minimum. I mean, I think that just taking out that 10%, I mean, it just isn't enough. But that's just my personal view. I mean, I think it should be a lot more, but.
That's okay. I mean, that's why we're here. The deliberations for a reason. 60 is 6. It's 60 units. 10% is 6. You know?
Right.
15% is 9. You know, I'm just picking numbers out of the sky. Jeff, you just said, George, you agreed at a minimum. Adam, any comments or thoughts on this?
Yeah, I don't have any, you know, I agree. I think it's a little bit big. When we start talking about cutting it down too, I just want to make sure that the low income rental units don't get adversely affected by it, where it's a 10% cut, but we lose 2 low income units out of it. You know what I mean? So that if they cut it, if they're going to trim it down in size, it's trimmed down in sort of a fair manner across any type of rental type. But
I'm afraid that is what happens.
Proportional, so it would be, right now, it's a good question, Adam. On the zoning site plan, they talk here about, right on the chart they included, it's a good question. They said of the 60 units, 7.2 would be deed restricted affordable. So what they said as part of their proposal was 7 on-site units, and then they pay a fee in lieu of $72,393 for the 0.2. So if the commission were to reduce that to 54, 12% of 54, I'd have to do the calculation. So there would be a proportional reduction. It would probably
lose 1.
We would probably lose 1. So it would probably be, at that point, it would go down to 6 affordable and 48 market rate.
Every 12% reduction in number of units would result in 1 affordable unit being taken off the table.
So
it's right now you're losing, if you go 10%, you're losing 6. You lose 1 affordable unit.
Yes.
It lands up being
Yeah.
If you right now
it's the first in line to go. And then you have the other one.
Right now it's 7.2. If you went down to 54 units, it goes 6.48. So I bet you nickel they would do 6 units and 0.48 in payment. Yes, Jim Rand.
I confess I'm a little bit skeptical about arbitrary increases or reductions. I think if you're trying to accomplish something, like get the height down by a floor, to make it less obvious to surrounding properties, that's a laudable goal. Simply saying, well, 60 is too much, 54 is better. I don't see how you defend that, but maybe I'm just being too sensitive.
No, we've done it before here in Marianne at certain times. I've seen it done in other applications in other towns across the state of Connecticut in our peer zones. How the mechanics actually work and how it works out at the end of the day, you know, I'm not 100% sure. I can tell you that when we did the Royal, we redesigned the Royal, which is also effectively known as Old Clock Hill Homes.
Old Town Hall Homes.
Old Town Hall Homes, sorry.
Well, the one was the Heights at Darien originally. The commission, it was 112 units, and the commission scaled it back to 107 or 106 in response to neighbor concern. So yes, Jim, your point is very well taken. Is the commission has to make certain findings under the regulations, and you're right that one of the reasons cannot be just because it has to be related to section 1005, the nature and intensity of use, etc. So you're right, there's a specific standard that can't be, that has to be met, and it cannot be just an arbitrary decision by the commission. You're absolutely right.
But I would move forward with Jim's notion. I think eliminating the third floor could make that palatable to me. I gather that would be about 20 units. It would lower it by what, 10, 12 feet? I think it is going to loom large in that area. As the Fairmead folks say, it's really 52 feet above them because they're below the grade from which we measure it, that kind of thing. I think 20 less units would reduce 40 plus people, probably 40 cars, somewhere around there. I think that is a much less intense use than what I'm seeing so far. It could make it palatable.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with you, but just be cognizant that they're not asking for, the height is as of right. You know,
Yeah, okay. I'm just stating a rationale from my thinking.
Yeah, no, I agree with 100%. I just want to make sure we talk through the issues and concepts and whatnot, but the height that they're going for is as of right. There's no waivers on that. It's the way we measure buildings.
Yep, no, I get that.
Yep. I mean, I don't disagree with you that Parklands 1 is pretty tall. It's a big building. You know, I guess it is what it is. This one is going to be in concert, I guess, I don't know if it's the right word or not. But I want to be able to come out of the box with some kind of idea. Do you want to keep going? Anybody else have any thoughts on that? Because it doesn't seem like we came to a final consensus. Jeff, anything else you want to add, sir? No?
Yeah.
Adam, you said a little bit. You just don't want to lose the other unit, but they run in tandem. They're separate proportionate. And Jim doesn't want to pull an arbitrary number out of the sky.
If we don't reduce it, does the footprint of the building really change? If we reduce it by 10 units, the height's not going to go down. So how does that impact the whole footprint of the building?
Like I said, it depends. My number is square footage and units, because 60 is a lot and square footage a lot. If you make it less units with the same square footage, then you just end up having larger units.
Bigger units.
Right? If you use the same square footage of the building and you wanted more units, you put in more studios. We were in a meeting a couple of weeks ago with Federal. They have a business plan not to have big units and not to have small units. They said the sweet spot in the market is 1 bedroom to 2 bedroom. You know, this has got all kinds of stuff.
It says studios, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, 6
Yeah.
studios, 29 1 bedrooms, 25 2 bedrooms, total of 60 proposed.
Yeah. The one beauty about studios is that those land up being the most affordable units, even if they're really not much of it. It's the nature of the beast. Okay, so we can just keep thinking about that one, okay?
Yep.
Let's move on to the next one. Strict lighting controls as built of lighting. It's relative to an example. I mean, I always deal with examples for some reason. Maybe that's what my mother taught me. But on 26 East Lane,
yes,
we had a lighting plan. We had some photometric surveys when we did lights at the high school. There was 1 million photometric surveys. This one we have a little bit of it. And we also, when we did BMW, we had a lot of it. Where I bring up 26 East Lane is after the building was built and before it got a CO, before it got its stuff, the neighbors and the developer went out to the property and they ended up redirecting the lights they landed up, I think, did they change the color of the lights?
I think they took out a floodlight maybe or something like that.
Yeah, they would like, I was told they were white and they turned to yellow, or the yellow.
Yeah, they might have changed the color as well, just to tone it down a little.
Right.
So that could certainly be a requirement of the commission, a as-built photometric survey, and then maybe a meeting on site.
That'd be great. Because like we did at the high school, we did neighbor tests when we did the lights before they got to C of O, before they got a game. They turned on the lights and they did a test, and everyone went out there and everybody looked at it and everyone said, wow, you know, it's pretty good. And it did what it was designed to do. But they did a test with all the neighbors and all the all the stakeholders. I mean, if we could put like that here, that'd be good. Any questions relative to something like that? As well, so we got it. Okay, refuse pickup, no garbage recycling to be stored outside the building, limits and restriction on pickup times. I would just mirror that one, mirror what they do with the assisted living facility.
Okay.
And all the stuff is on the inside of the building.
Yeah, that's true.
Right, there's no, you know, outside. In apartment buildings, when they have stuff like that, usually there's chutes that go down. Commerce is a little bit different. They have a refuse area. Where this guy does not have that.
This does not have that.
This doesn't have it. It's more like federal. We just talked about there restrictions in time. I would suggest that we mirror that with the assisted living facility. Anybody have a question relative to that? I bet you this building's gonna have a lot less garbage than the assisted living facility. Is there anything we're missing that's not on what we call the green sheets? Anybody's top of mind, what's the heading we're up to? Potential conditions of approval to address concerns. This is the concerns that you have, neighbors, you might have heard the neighbors had, any neighbor that you listened to or testified they had. We're trying to make sure that everybody is happy in the same sandbox if this thing eventually gets approved. Anything from you, George? You turned your mic on.
No, I've just left it on. Sorry.
Okay, that's fine. It's my signal to say that we want to talk, but if we can always come back to it. This is not, you know, it's not a one-shot deal. What's the next set of things we want to do?
Traffic. Talked about traffic. We talked about, I think last time we talked about the improvements all the way down at the end in terms of the intersection, moving the stop bar. There was some improvements, I think, down here at the bottom.
Okay.
So we'll have to, again, staff will go through the record and see what was put forth by the applicant in terms of those improvements. So we'll check that out.
Okay, so on the bottom of the green sheet, which is, I guess, page 2, site plan consideration section 1020 of the zoning regulations, increased size of building and development coverage. We talked about that a little bit. The number and mix of proposed residential units, we talked about that a little bit. On-site circulate and amount of parking. The parking is it is what it is. It's 139 units in total. I can tell you that right now the parking's underutilized, and over at Acre, there's no cars in that parking lot. Maybe nobody at Acre drive anymore. I don't know.
Yeah, certainly they put a parking data chart on sheet SC1, which outlines what the assisted living facility has, the residents of Selleck's Woods, what they're proposed. There'll be some sharing spaces. So there's a chart.
Yeah, it's very good. It all complies to what we wanted. Anybody have any concern with parking? Too much parking? Too little parking? No, Adam, you just moved to the other side of the table. You're over here now. So did Jim. Traffic concerns. Anything else that we missed relative to traffic? With regards to traffic, you know, our charge that we learned from one of our continuing education classes is we have traffic consultants. We had 2 traffic consultants. At the end of the day, our professional, Michael Galante from Hanover, quote unquote, signed off on it. But if there's anything that the commission wants in addition to what you can think of relative to this is important. They moved stop bars out on Old Kings Highway. They moved other things. We checked the circulation. I just talked about we moved the pedestrian sidewalk to go around the grill area, so that got taken care of. Anything else anybody missed that jumps off the page on parking? There is that one house that's, what's her address? 2 Parklands Drive?
Yes, Ms. Mafucci is at 2 Parklands Drive. She testified at the hearings. She is the other curb cut on Parklands Drive. When you first come in, she's on the left-hand side.
Right. So I think, did we address most of her items, any of her items?
I'll have to reread her testimony, and
she is here.
we do have, as I said, the file, yeah, all the neighbor comments are in the record. You have a hard copy of all of them here, including the presentations made. I'll have to go through and read through some of the concerns. And I think that Mr. Flaherty, in one of his response documents, November 3rd.
Yep.
Oh, yes, first page. Here we go. We can take a look at that.
Let me just read it for everybody to remember. The applicant this is in response to Mrs. Mafucci's comments. The applicant is going to install a yellow center line in the middle of Parklands Drive, providing visual cues for drivers to respect the center line and stay within their lanes. This is indicated on Exhibit A dated November 3rd, 2021, provided herewith. So the applicant, let's see, next bullet point. The applicant proposed to modify augment existing crosswalks in frontage of the assisted living facility by raising it and providing improved striping and signage. This is indicated on that same thing, November 3rd. The applicant will add litter cleanup in public portions of Parklands Drive to the required test for landscape contractor when they are servicing the property. What is that? Litter cleanup in public Parklands Drive. Okay. That's a landscaper. So that was in response to Mafucci's, our other real neighbor on our street. Anything else relative to that? The next.
On parking, would we need to do anything to protect the assurance of 11 spots for Celix Woods? Or do we leave that to the developer? I don't know.
It's on the site plan.
Yeah, I think, George, that was a representation made by the applicant. I think you're right on money. The applicant makes the representation. That the commission can certainly hold them to that representation. So we'll make sure to include that. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, you're 100% correct, and we can add it to the resolution. If it's on a site plan that's part of the record, and at the beginning of all our resolutions, it details those things out. If it says 11 parking spaces in that spot, when we go out there, then that'll be 11 parking spaces before they get to see it. The next item in this one section of the green sheet is landscaping and buffering on the property. We already talked about that prior. On-site lighting, we talked about that prior. Stormwater management and drainage considerations. We talked about that prior landscape to bonding.
Right, and you may recall Joe Canis from Ty & Bond was the outside peer reviewer brought in at the applicant's expense, who reviewed the proposal, the engineering done by Mr. Flaherty. Mr. Canis testified at the hearing, maybe 2 hearings, and submitted a written report. So we'll look to his report to confirm that everything was addressed. There may be certain things that need to be addressed throughout the process. And as you said, with bonding and other inspections, we can tighten it up a little bit.
Thank you. Okay. Right. Do you want to?
Just so for the record, or so I don't surprise people later, I have more concern about the flow of water over Celix Woods and Dunlop Woods than I do the site itself. I'm sure Craig Flaherty and company know how to design appropriate drainage, but if we're going to be getting increased rain, I am concerned that whatever may come from this site onto Celix Woods and Dunlop Woods could be problematic in what they refer to as a very slow infiltration soils and whatnot. So in my head, just so you know.
Can we go over that?
Yeah, when we, I think it's apparent that we're going to need another night of deliberation. So certainly, what we'll do as a staff is try to anticipate any questions or commission members have questions that you want us to, again, go through the record and find certain references where we're able to get that into your packets. I know it's, when you have 3 different hearings over multiple months, but we'll do that, George. The commission is not going to vote next week, but we'll continue the deliberations. Staff will start working on certainly any decision of the commission is going to have to include findings relative to all of these issues. So certainly it's a lot for us to write up relative to the issues we discussed tonight: landscaping, drainage, parking, deed restricted affordable housing, site plan issues. So we want to make sure all the topics are properly covered. The various, if there are going to be conditions of approval, making sure those are buttoned up. And certainly we're not going to be able to do that for next week, but we can certainly continue this conversation with the hope of a possible vote by the commission on February 8th or 15th.
Well, as I say, I'm not asking you, staff, to spend a lot of time on this, in that I know I'm not going to contest redness and needs calculations and findings and all the rest. I just continue to have concern that, combined with whatever effluent there may be from the site and whatever heavy rains happen on Selleck Woods and Dunlop Woods, we may be causing some trouble that way. That's just in my head.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, because I remember we discussed that, and I was discussed on part of the applicant side, that some of this stuff is gonna drain into that thing. I just don't know how much it is.
We'll
Yeah,
go through the record.
there was definitely, you're 100% correct, because I think something does drain into the woods. We just want to make sure that I'd like to review it again. I mean, my file on this thing's pretty thick too, and it's over a long period of time, so it's a little, in my house, it's a little disjointed a little bit. A couple other items in the beginning, in the middle, page 1. Amendment would take place at DMR's overlay zone based on the 3.9 acres. We already talked about that. Remember the zoning map considerations, the applicable standard for land in DMR zoning is consistent with the town plan conservation plan development. That's a good point. We already did that today. Okay. The last page, some blasting and hole ramming, we already talked about. Standard of approval. You want to go ahead? You want to keep going on this?
No, I think what we'll do, it gives us, the commission's been very helpful in terms of giving staff feedback that we can start drafting something in writing for your review at a future meeting. That meeting, as I said, will probably be February 8th. We'll get an extension from the applicant, additional time to make the decision.
Okay. Because we have enough to go with, right?
Well, yes, so certainly I'm taking copious notes.
And how
does as well.
How many days do we have to make the decision?
Well, I think that the applicant can give us additional time. As I said, I think the commission 5 days from the close of the hearing, unless the applicant grants an extension. So we'll circle back to the applicant tomorrow morning, ask for an extension of time to make a decision, and we'll keep this on next week's agenda as well for further deliberations.
Is that okay with everybody? We're gonna keep going on this another time. I mean, we bit off a big chunk tonight.
Yeah.
And we have some open questions and some thoughts and some own personal homework to think about. Okay?
Thank you all.
Great. All right, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. Thanks, everybody. It's still work in process. Deliberation on any public hearings closed on January 25th, time permitting, any other business required. I would really like to do that guy on West Avenue.
Yeah, there were a few forward ones tonight. The one on West Avenue, the gentleman, Mr. Doyle, at number 2 on West Avenue. To me, most straightforward. Commission members have any issues on that one? Just
you guys find if we did that one or any of these things?
The quicker ones, certainly.
We did it across the street where she redesigned her driveway so we can get in. I guess bought the house, is renovating it, construction now. Just wants to widen the driveway. Any problems with that issue?
The other easy one was 110 Post.
I wasn't here.
That was Mr. Maslin, with a new tenant, George, Adam, Jim, comments, 110. George saying, Jeff, you were here for that one item, 110 Post Road.
I don't think Jeff was there for that one.
He was
I
here.
mean, I'm sorry. Yeah, Jeff.
Any comments, thoughts? No? Okay.
It looks like we're gonna tell staff to do a motion to, draft up a resolution of approval. Okay. And what else do we got?
We got
320 Brookside Road.
320 Brookside was the sport court on the 2-acre property, corner of Brookside and Marianne. The sport court's in the middle of the property. Mr. Mueller designed a drainage system to account for it. It's a pretty flat property and it's a little lower, so it's not a big change in terms of the amount of grading. Jim, Adam, George saying okay, Adam's okay, Jim okay, great, we'll get started on that. And 249 Tokeneke Road was Ms. Young, who had started the work, you may recall, taking a lot of rock out. SC Minor was there on her behalf this evening, talk about the water flow will stay the same. Little to no new impervious surface, will just be regrading it, taking out a little more rock and creating a lawn area. Same water flow.
Adam, yes, George saying it okay, George, and Jeff's okay?
Great.
Okay. And then we'll noodle around a little bit. We don't, there's a lot of questions on 72.
We'll come back with Kara on that one. 72 Oaklands Highway, to be deliberated next week.
Okay. So that takes care of
And then 289 West Avenue, that's the driveway expansion to,
Did that one.
We did it first.
oh. I missed that.
That's cool. You were checking something else. We're getting close to 10 to 10. We're getting close. Any other business? 2/3 vote of the thing? I don't see any other business. Jeff Ball's getting close to his meeting. Any other business, Jeff? No, you good? All right, upcoming meetings, February 1st and February. We're off.
We're meeting the next 2 weeks at least, and then get a week off somewhere in February.
You're gonna break, right? It's Valentine's Day. All right, you guys can have Valentine's Day off. Okay, you guys and girls, ladies. All right, I think that's it, folks.
Isn't it a Monday? Oh, whatever. Okay. Thank you. No, I
Okay,
guess it is. Right, okay. I move we adjourn.
I got a motion to adjourn from George. Looking for a second. Adam's got the second. All those in favor?
Adjourn. 5-0. Thank you all.
There you
See
go.
y'all. Bye.
Thank you all.